Dr. Mandrill, don't we? Good evening, Mr. Stone. My husband's just having his dinner.
The condemned man slurped a hearty meal. Make a lovely picture. Considering his chances with you around, you'd have to use very fast film.
Mr. Stone's a rather desperate man, darling. All sorts of people are after him. He's even wanted for murder.
Which explains the look in these wild, bloodshot private eyes. The name William Lloyd Drexel ring a bell, Mr. Kingsley? West Virginia family. Mr. Drexel was in coal. Not personally, of course. A whole lot of strong, dirty men brought up out of the ground for him.
Open wider, darling.
Like you, Mr. Drexel had 1 foot, maybe a foot and a half in the grave. Especially after Mrs. Drexel promoted herself from his private nurse to his future widow. Before he was shoveled into the same ground all his millions were shoveled out of, Mr. Drexel's children threw him a little going-away autopsy. When they discovered traces of a long, toxic buildup in the smorgasbord that used to be their father, they threatened murder charges, forcing their grieving stepmother to give up her share of the inheritance. You weren't going to make the same mistake as Mrs. Kingsley that you made as Mrs. Drexel, were you?
Not if I could help it, Mr. Stone.
This time she'd make sure there'd be no other survivors. Only before she got rid of Peter and Mallory, there was the little matter of Dr. Mandrill, who was beginning to pray a lot more for your wealth than for your health, and was getting more and more anxious to cash in on some of the looks your wife had been giving him that were hot enough to melt your tires. How am I doing so far?
Very good, Mr. Stone. Very good indeed.
She arranged for your son Peter to kill Mandrill and set me up as the fall guy, knowing full well the police would readily accept me as a murder suspect. How are you going to do it? Were you going to arrange for this to have a head-on collision with a streetcar? Or were you just going to pull the plug on your married appliance?
No, Mr. Stone. You unhooked the machine, and then you came at me. Had I not lost time shooting you in self-defense, I might have been able to get it started again.
And my motive?
You knew once my husband learned that you'd murdered Dr. Mandrill and were having an affair with Mallory, he'd have used his influence to put you in the gas chamber for a whole week running. Isn't that true, Luther? Measured breaths, darling. Measured breaths.
You're going to kill him before Peter and Mallory are safely out of the way?
Well, by now, Peter will have killed Mallory and be heading to the beach house to meet me. Oh, you've never seen it, Mr. Stone. It's quite grand. It's on both sides of the highway. A private tunnel takes you to the water. The old swimming hole, as my husband calls the Pacific. The house lies at the bottom of the Kingsley Canyon. The road built to twist and twist so you can unwind on the way down, but not so much so that each side drops off sharply a few hundred feet. When Peter's brakes, or what he thinks are his brakes, give out, he'll never make it past the first turn, which would have just been minutes ago. And now, Mr. Stone, if you'll turn him off, I believe it's time my husband turned in. One swift pull should do it.
You don't want the honor?
I'll forego the pleasure for your fingerprints. Oh, I know you must think harshly of me, Luther, but that feeling won't last long.
Laura!
Night-night, darling. Mr. Stone. Now, Mr. Stone!
No, Stone, please.
Peter! He was trying to kill Luther!
I wasn't the only one set up, was I, kid?
She did it. I didn't have the courage, thank God.
Oh, I do love a coward with pride.
Any more than I could do what she had in mind for Mallory. You know what Laura had in mind for my father when you had your secretary tell me to meet you here?
I knew if we all met in one place, someone's tongue might come off its roller. Now about disconnecting Mr. Kingsley.
She wasn't. We can do it together. The two of us. And then, you don't know how much there is. We deserve it all. We've both gotten rotten deals out of life. Peter only had to tell me about you and that singer for me to know you took the blame for her.
Believe what you want. Your past and mine don't add up to the same future.
Don't make me use this.
That's the last thing I had in mind.
Stone!
No!
Three gunshots rang out. 3 shots divided by 2 people. Somebody figures to die. someone doesn't